In a matter of 40 years, it's made a remarkable leap forward in terms of getting people out of poverty. The United Nations is proud of having been a part of this journey with China. There are many reasons for the world to collaborate. The pandemic, we need global health. It's a reminder.
Or is it, as we're told here in Britain? I think it's
大家好，我是高志凯，欢迎收看高谈博论。今天我们跟联合国驻华大使西达切特吉阁下谈一谈国际多边主义问题。Welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you.
This year marks the 50th anniversary of China's resumption of its seat at the United Nations. How do you look at China and the United Nations over the past 50 years and beyond from today?
Thank you, first of all, Victor, for having me on your show. And China is one of the architects of the United Nations back in 1945 in San Francisco when the UN Charter was signed. In fact, China was the first signatory to the Charter. China came back to the UN, and it's been 50 years now. 1979 was when the United Nations established a presence in China. And since then, the United Nations has been on this journey with China when in 79, the per capita GDP of the country was about $180. Today, it's at $12,000. In a matter of 40 years, it's made a remarkable leap forward in terms of not only getting people out of poverty, but taking over 800 million people out of poverty. And then in the last 7 years, as we know, close to 90 million people. The United Nations is proud of having been a part of this journey with China. And it's a momentous time that we today celebrate this year, in fact, the 25th of October would mark that date of China's return to the United Nations. I think it inspires hope. It inspires the very spirit of multilateralism that your head of state, President Xi, talks about. And I've come here at a time when I see the world at an inflection point. We have 9 years to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. China's drive, energy, enterprise, its technology, its innovation is not only going to help itself through its rural revitalization of leaving no one behind, but a lot of knowledge that can be shared with the rest of the world, because this is the decade of action to achieve the SDGs.
Indeed, I saw the important ceremony when you presented your credential to Chinese President Xi Jinping. It's a very important event in China-UN relations. We all know that China is promoting continued globalization at a time when there are other countries in the world which are de-globalizing and try to be a force for the destruction of supply chains, for example, and many outstanding companies, including, for example, leading tech company Huawei, have been on the sanction list. How do you look at the trend of continued globalization or deglobalization in the coming years or decades? And how do you see the world coming together under the rallying force headed by the United Nations in the coming decade or so?
So, Victor, a very important point you just made. As a matter of fact, the day, it was actually the 14th of April when I was with a group of 30 ambassadors who presented their credentials, and I felt very honored presenting my credentials and representing the Secretary General as his senior most representative in China. He reinforced the message on the importance of multilateralism and the United Nations as an institution, and I felt deeply inspired at that moment when President Xi talked about that. You know, there are many reasons for the world to collaborate. The pandemic, we need global health. It's a reminder that the world needs to unite to achieve universal health coverage. In fact, now SDG 3 or universal health coverage has become the anchor for the success of the rest of the Sustainable Development Goals. It's very clear that without health, we have no strength or wit or intellect or anything for that matter. And it has brought back the reality that we all have to invest in health, which means we have to collaborate in health. The fact that China, together with the US and Russia and India and the UK, were able to quickly come forth with vaccines, that collaboration would be necessary if we need to immunize the entire world, because no one is safe till everybody is immunized. And China talks about vaccines as a global public good. And I commend China for the speed with which it was not only able to develop a vaccine, but as you know, most recently, the World Health Organization actually issued an approval for China's own COVID vaccine. So we need to collaborate there. The second area is the area of the climate. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has declared a climate emergency, and you know it's commendable that President Biden has brought the United States back to the Paris Agreement, and we recently saw the visit of Mr. John Kerry, the special representative of President Biden for the climate, an illustrious man with an illustrious vision. And when he said that the green industry or the green revolution will rival the industrial revolution, I believe this is another excellent place for China and the United States and all the world to collaborate, because we are at an existentialist threat, and that existentialist threat, if not corrected, will need the collaboration of great countries like China and America, great economies, which are also incidentally, they together are 40% of the emitters of greenhouse gases, can do a lot to change the world. The fact of the matter is, in China, 50% of the world's solar power is actually produced. Imagine what we could be doing if we are to go into that phase of really coming out, recovering from the pandemic, recovering from the economic crisis that we confront that rivals the Great Depression, coming out with a greener world. And I believe this is another opportunity for us to collaborate. And the third and the most fundamental place, Victor, is the tragedy that we are seeing with people falling back into poverty all over the world. I think China has demonstrated a model where actually even by 2020, in the last 7 years, you lifted 90 million people out of poverty. I believe there are important lessons to be shared here. The world has to integrate around economics. Economics is not independent, it is interdependent. It's a matter of supply and demand. So it is clear that the world has to unite and come together if we need to rebuild a better, greener world. And it's a moment for us to pause and rethink, reinvigorate, rewire, reimagine what the new global economics would look like when nobody is left behind.
Absolutely. I think when China and the United States presented their documents to the United Nations Secretary General for the Paris Climate Accord, that was a very good day for mankind as a whole.
Absolutely.
We are all very happy and look forward to your important term as the UN ambassador in China. Do you have a plan to visit all the provinces, autonomous regions and municipalities?
I hope I can. I really hope I can. But in fact, I took over my role on the 8th of February. And within 2 weeks, I was actually traveling to Shanghai for the Mobile World Congress, and where I had the opportunity to interact with many of the tech industry leaders. And I was also able to tell the world that I had a partnership as the UN resident coordinator and as the head of UNFPA with Huawei from China, with Merck from the United States, with Philips from Netherlands, with GlaxoSmithKline from the United Kingdom, with Safaricom from Kenya. And we came together, 3 UN agencies, UNFPA, UNICEF and WHO. And collectively, by